c'est l'heure du départ. On est dimanche, il est midi, on a un meeting à 12h30. Toutes les valises du groupe sont là. Ils nous ont donné des beaux petits tags pour les bagages. Ride the Himalayas, avec nos noms dessus. Très belle attention. Donc pour tous nos sacs, on en a même quelques-uns en rab. Donc là, on va avoir un meeting à 12h30 où ils vont nous expliquer la ride pour une petite partie de l'après-midi. Et puis ensuite, on va embarquer dans le bus pour Manali. J'ai checké out pour l'hôtel. L'équipe de Ride the Himalayas qui est ici. Très gentil, ils nous ont super bien accueillis. Voilà, on se reprend pour le briefing. Et voilà notre salle de lunch. On va voir le lunch et le briefing. Tous les participants s'installent. Et donc on vient de nous distribuer la carte de la ride pour les 15 prochains jours. Donc c'est la route que nous allons faire, avec les endroits où nous allons dormir, soit en camping, soit en hôtel. Donc on va partir de Manali, on va à Soja, Kalpa, Naku, Kadza. Là on va passer la passe de Kingzunla, Keshkar, Sardou, je crois qu'on passe une journée ici avant d'aller à Anle, et de Anle on va aller à la passe la plus haute du monde qui est Umingla, retour sur Anle, retour sur Lé, et ce sera la fin de la ride.
All good. So finally things getting real after a year, and some of the guys are like have been talking to me for almost 3 years. So and just one quick question: how many of you did think that once you land at the airport you won't find someone?
It was getting like that.
Sorry? So it's like when you see an ad on the Facebook, you just sign up and you just think about the fascinating photos and going on the highest motorable road, and you sign up, you pay $500, and then you don't see anyone in India.
Yes.
So you guys are quite daring. So guys, my name is Rahul, and I am the brain behind this Ride the Himalayas crime scene. And I welcome you all on the behalf of team Ride the Himalayas. Here's my team with me, which is going to take care of you guys through the 15 days of Himalaya ride through the Himalayan valleys. And here is Akash, here is Mohit. He's going to be with you during the 15 days of ride, so be nice to him. And he is Zuma. He is the backbone of the company. He is taking care of almost everything when I'm not there. And he is Mohit, and that's Khushi. And last but not the least, he is going to piss you off every day with the every day in the morning with the briefing and all this stuff. You gotta do this, you don't need to do this. So all the do's and don'ts, it's for him. So here is our team, and there is one more team waiting for you guys in Manali. So because we start our ride from Manali, and Manali is located at a height of like around 2,000 meters. So it's almost 6,000 feet. So as if now here we are at 200 meters something, and there you would be like around 2,000 meters. So there is going to be change in the altitude when you start from here and when you make it there in the morning. And guys, this ride overnight from Delhi to Manali is going to be an adventure itself. So through the narrow Indian roads and then with the potholes, with the crazy traffic, and in a big vehicle, it's going to drive you crazy. So the adventure starts here itself. And some of the guys must be wondering that why don't we fly to Manali. So the reason that we don't fly to Manali is that Manali is a lower foothill town in the Himalayas, and it has a very basic airport. So it does not have the modern technology, amenities, and radar system and all that. So most of the times it has bad weather because it is a lower foothill town in the Himalayas. So most of the times either the flights are diverted or cancelled, or again coming back to Delhi. So again you start from here. So the safest way, because we are on a fixed schedule, so we have fixed departures, fixed arrivals, so we really can't afford that thing. So the best practice is to do it by road. So this is going to be an overnight journey, and you have a big Volvo coach, so that is only for our group. So it will be nice and comfortable. But yes, you will be awake for the whole night, some of the guys, because of the fascination. Because the things what you see around and the crazy traffic when you go through it, it is gonna fascinate you. And first of all, I would request you all that once I am done with this briefing, I would request you all to come down to my desk so that we can sort out the payment formalities, and I can get all the cash. And then I'll go to Vegas. I'll send you back to the airport. So, and once I'm done with the documentation, meanwhile you can also go for your lunch. Lunch is there in that section. So we'll get it done like both ways. And now talking about the ride. So guys, we are doing 15 days of an epic adventure through the Himalayan valleys. So we start from 200 meters here, we hit Manali, 2000 meters, and there we start our ride next morning. So when you reach there in the morning in Manali, that is going to be your rest day. And in the afternoon you have your bikes there, and after the lunch you go for the test ride. If you have any recommendations or any sort of problem with your bikes, you can let us know. You can let the mechanic know about it. He is going to fix it as per your recommendation. And I would request you all that you gotta give your best to test the bikes, because that is the point where in the worst case scenario we can change your bike. We can get a new bike for you. So test your bikes really well, because once you leave from there, you just deal with what you have got. So I won't be able to help you out. But that is the point. If you ask that 10 times that I don't need this bike, I'll change it for 10 times. Not a problem for me. But once we leave from there, it's done. So, and we'll be traveling through the remote areas, so there's very less chances of getting that thing fixed, because we do have the spare parts, we do have the mechanic, but that is like the basic spare parts. So that is the thing with the bikes. So we start from 200 meters here, we hit Manali, that is 2000 meters, and when we start our ride, so this is going to be 15 days of ride, where we have some short days, some long days. So we have kept it in a way that you guys don't get exhausted. So when we know that there is a bad terrain, there are a lot of switchbacks or dirt track, so we have kept that day short. So it is designed in such a way, and especially with the altitude. We start from 200 meters, we go to 2000 meters, and then next day we go to 3000 meters. Then again we come down. Then again we go to 3500 meters. So it's like we are gradually riding up the hills and again coming down. So it makes you acclimatize to the weather, to the altitude, and especially with the altitude, I would recommend you all that this is one of the major concern for most of the riders throughout the trip. So keep yourself hydrated. This is the best practice. This is the best practice or the best idea to avoid the altitude sickness. The another thing is that to avoid the altitude sickness, you can take the altitude sickness pills. But those pills are not as much as reliable as keeping yourself hydrating. So if you keep yourself hydrated, you will be sorted. And we are gradually going up the hill, so this is not going to be the problem that you don't get acclimatized. So most of the riders get acclimatized during this ride, but yes, some of them may face problems, and it's like not the major problems, it's the headache, running short of breaths, so it's something like that. So you don't need to worry about it, because this ride and handling this terrain is more about your mental strength. I have seen some of the riders asking me questions, how is the ride, how do we deal with it, and what is the level of riding, what kind of expertise do we need. Let me tell you guys, this ride is not about being expert or being pro rider, or this ride is more about mental strength. Especially even if I talk about the skills, because we are riding through the Himalayan valleys, and there would be roads, you see that narrow switchbacks going through the towns, there would be blind spots, there would be a steep right at the edge of the road, 1000 feet, 2000 feet, and then you have a switchback like a U-turn, there would be blind spots, curves and edges. But let me tell you, this is more about mental strength. I have seen people come in here with like lot of expertise, lot of skills, having experience of like more than 30 years, 35 years, even 40 years. On my last ride, there was a guy from Australia. He was 76, but he did it like anything. So I have seen most of the experienced riders committing the mistakes, and the most inexperienced ones were the safest ones. So this ride is not about showing off your skills or testing the roads or testing the bikes. There is a saying in the Himalayas, it's not a race, it's not a rally, enjoy the valley. So this is what you are here for. And when you start your ride from Manali, you will be going through the town, you will be going through the small towns, remote areas, narrow switchbacks. You will see that people, when you are going through a town, you will see that people doing their household stuff on the roads. Someone is repairing his bike on the road. Kids are playing, kettles are there. So you will come across all those things. So the mantra for the ride is go slow, keep calm, especially when you are passing through a town, especially when you have a blind spot, you have a curve, you have an edge. So just go slow, and guys, keep honking. Honking is not offensive in India. So this is the best place when you can, just beep, 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 you can use it throughout the ride. So if you didn't honk in your countries for years, here is your chance. So it's like, guys, it's not offensive because it's more like a mode of communication. Beep, beep, I'm there. So especially when you are at the blind spots, curves, edges, passing through the towns, just make sure that you honk. And the another mantra for the ride, because some of the guys, like everybody is from a different country or a different geolocation. So some of the guys ride at the right hand side, some of the ride at the left hand side. So this is going to be one of the issues during the ride, because when you are in a flow, you actually follow what you have been doing for years. So the mantra for the ride is left is right and right is wrong. Got my point? So always keep left. Left is right and right is wrong. So this is about the traffic and security instructions. Now coming to the ride schedule, what we are going to do during this 15 days of ride. So guys, starting from Manali, we are doing around 6 to 7 high passes in the world. So when we start from Manali, the very first day we are doing Jalori Pass. Jalori Pass has a height of around 3000 meters, so it is like around 10,000 feet. We are going there to the top, then coming down. The first day of our accommodation, that is going to be our own camping setup. We are setting up our own camps, and after the finish of the ride, when you reach there, you already have the setup done because there is a team which is taking care of all this stuff. So when you reach there, you have your tea, coffee, snacks, and then it is followed by a dinner, and you are done for the day. So the riding pattern every day is gonna be like 7:30, it's the breakfast time. Then within 1 hour you pack up. Around 8:30 to 9 you meet us at the parking lot, and as soon as we are like done with the gearing up, we just start our ride. And around 12:30 to 1 p.m. that is going to be our lunch time every day. But it depends on the ride, because sometimes you get stuck somewhere in a traffic or any uncertain situation, maybe a roadblock due to a landslide, something like that. So you are stuck there, so you're gonna get delayed. But usually it's 12:30 to 1 p.m. And then in the evening, when you reach at your campsite or hotel or Swiss camps, you have your tea, coffee, snacks, everything ready. When you reach there, you just get freshen up and have these snacks, and then it is followed by a dinner. So this is going to be the ride schedule every day. And during all these 15 days of ride, mostly we are doing 150 to 200 kilometers every day. So, and there would be even some days short and some days long. So there would be 2 longer days. So guys, this is Manali, and this section, this loop is called Spiti Valley. And Spiti Valley is known for its fascinating roads, Tibetan plateau, and it's like the views are just like a portrait all around. You look around you, everywhere you just see a kind of portrait. And the roads, they're gonna just fascinate you. It's thrilling. So we start from Manali, and this is our first point where we are camping, Ani. Then next day we have hotel. Then next day we have hotel. Then we have our own camps. Then we have hotel. Then we have Swiss camps. So we have tried to create a kind of experience so that you are just not, moving from one hotel to another. You have a camping setup which is done by us. Then you have Swiss camps. Swiss camps are like, there is a fixed setup, and it's kind of glamping actually. So you have a nice bed and washroom all inside. So we have tried to create a kind of experience for you guys. So the longest day I was talking about, so the 10th day of the ride, when we start from this point, which is Sisu, this one. So, Sarchu. Here it is, Sarchu. So from Sarchu to Leh, this is going to be around 250 kilometers. But most of the roads would be paved, so it is not going to be a problem for most of the guys. And one more concern here, that when the bikes we start with from Manali, when we reach Leh, this point, we are not riding the same bikes there. It is because of the business monopoly there, because that is an extreme remote area, small town, so people over there, and it is a different province actually. Sorry guys. So the people over there, they want that you should not rent the bikes from a different province and then come here and do all the sightseeing and then you go back. So they have got a monopoly that you can ride it to the point, and once you finish, you take our bikes. So we are changing the bikes there. However, you will have the same 450 Himalayans there, but those would be different bikes from a different vendor because of this monopoly. So we are loading all those bikes which we have been riding for last 10 days. We'll load all the bikes in the truck and we'll send them back to Manali. So this is going to be one of the logistical concerns. So I just wanted to let you know, guys. And then there will be the second longest day when we start from Leh. So Leh is a kind of, you can say, a big base camp for the military and for us to go to the highest motorable road. So the highest motorable road is gonna be 5798 meters, which is actually higher than the Everest base camp. So that is going to be the day of achievement. So what you have, guys, planning for it. So these would be 2 longer days, and that is it. So when we start from Leh, we go to a village called Hanle that is located at a strategic point between Indo-China border, and it acts as a actual base camp to the highest motorable road. So we stay there. When we start from Leh, we stay there at that village, and in the morning we start our ride to the highest motorable road. We hit the highest motorable road, we come down again to the same village, we stay there, and next morning again we are coming back to Leh, and that is our finishing point. So talking about the last few days when we are going to the highest motorable road, guys, trust me, I have not seen anything in my life. Even I have been riding the Himalayas from last 10 years, because this is the second year onwards that we are allowed to go to Umlingla, which is the highest motorable road, because before that foreigners were not allowed to go there. So I never went there because my clients were not allowed to go there, so I didn't go there. But when I went there last year, it's just awesome. I have been riding the Himalayas for last 10 years. I didn't see anything like that. It is just out of the world experience. When you are at the top, 5,000, 6,000 meters, and you see everything is just down to you, and you are at the top. So it's a majestic view. You are just going to love that. And now talking about more about the 15 days of ride. So we start from 3,000 meters, the first pass which we do very first day. Then we enter in the Spiti Valley from the second day onwards, and on the 7th day of the ride we are doing the highest pass of this Spiti Valley circuit. So that is actually the Kunzum Pass. Here you see 4,550 meters. So that is the highest pass of the Spiti Valley circuit. And once we do this, we are going to the Moon Lake base camp. So Moon Lake is the 8th day of the ride, and it's actually lake located at a height of like around 14,000 feet. So there is a certain base camp. We ride there, and we are not allowed to take our bikes further from there. It's a track. So those who want to go to the Moon Lake, they just park their bikes to that certain point and track it up the hill. It's like around 1.5 kilometers. Not a big deal. Most of you guys can make it, but I would recommend that you should go there. It's just awesome. And then we are also doing the highest connected village to a motorable road in Asia, which is 15,500 meters in the Himalayas, and that is the point where you see the actual majestic view of the Tibetan plateau, that you are at the top and you see a vast stretch of land, and that view is just awesome. And once we are going to that village, then we are going to the highest post office in the world. So that is really extreme remote, and it has a small post office there. Maybe you can stop there, you can post the cards to your loved ones, to your friends and mates. So it might take 1 month or 2 months to reach there, but you can do that. And then again we are coming down to Kaza. Kaza is a small town, and it is like a kind of capital to this region. So you come down to Kaza. And when we are done with this Spiti Valley circuit, we are coming on to the Leh Manali highway. So this road is the Leh Manali highway. You must be wondering that these 2 points are very close to each other. So it is hardly a distance of 45 kilometers between these 2 points. And we can just do it in 1 hour. But then we gonna miss this Spiti Valley circuit. So when we are doing this for the last for the 9 days, we are coming at this point, which is Leh Manali highway. And on the Leh Manali highway, we are doing 4 to 5 high passes. So the first high pass is gonna be around 4890 meters. That is Bara Lachala Pass. And then on the very next day, we are doing 3 more passes, which is La Chungla, Nakila and Teng Lang La. So these are the 3 high passes which we are doing on Leh Manali highway. And there is one fascinating day when you are doing the Gata loops. So Gata loops is kind of like 22 hairpin bands. You start from around 10,000 feet and you finish at 15,000 feet, and you are at the top. And then you have a vast stretch of land. You won't imagine that at 15,000 feet you have such a huge vast stretch of land or a kind of plateau there. So these would be the high passes, and it is just not the roads and the views which is going to thrill you or fascinate you or you're gonna love that. It's the local culture and the heritage as well. So when you go to the higher mountains, you have the monasteries, you have you get to see the local culture and heritage. Most of the higher Himalayas have the Buddhist monasteries. So Buddhism is one of the major religion in the Himalayas. And there is one monastery we are visiting on the 6th day of the ride when we start from Nako. Here it is. And we go to Giyu Monastery. So Giyu Monastery has a 500-year-old mummy, and it is without any preservatives, and it is in a sitting position, and Buddhist people believe that he is a Buddhist monk who is still meditating and in a deep meditation. Because when you go there and when you see that mummy, you see nails growing, you see scalp still has the hair, you see jaws still fixed. So when you see it, you're gonna realize it that yes, some of the guys will buy that point and some of the guys will not. But yes, when you see it, it's going to fascinate you. You see the hairs, you see the jaw, you see the nails growing, everything is there, still sitting in a sitting position. So that is one of the monasteries, and those guys found that mummy inside a cave during an earthquake. So they believe that he is a Buddhist monk, he was meditating in a cave. And then we are going to another monastery that is around 1,000 years old. And being there in the extreme remote Himalayas, 1,000 years old, so when you imagine being there 1,000 years old without all the modern state-of-art facilities, transportation and everything, it's just going to blow your mind. And that monastery has just a different aura. So when you enter there, you feel like you just get a different vibe. So this is going to change your perception about motorcycling tours, about going to a certain destination, because it is gonna hit you spiritually as well. It is gonna transform you. And maybe you don't feel it now what I am saying, but these 15 days of ride, and when we finish our ride at the last day of the ride, at the farewell, we discuss all these things, and then you're gonna agree with me that yes, you were right. So I'm not selling anything to you right now, I'm just letting you know that yes, this is going to change you. And now talking about the ride pattern, how we ride. So we have a lead rider, we have a marshal in between the group, which is flexible, taking care of everyone in the group, and then we have a sweeper. So the job of the sweeper is always staying at the back. And we ride around 150 to 200 kilometers every day. And if I talk about the percentage of the road, how the off-road and the on-road scenario is going to be, so 60-40 or 70-30, depending on, because these roads are located in the border area, so every time you go, some road is paved or someone is washed out. So it is going to be 60-40 or 70-30. So 60% paved, 40% off-road, and paved with potholes. So there is a disclaimer. So now talking about the weather, when we start our ride from Manali, so Manali is a lower foothill town in the Himalayas, so there are chances of rain for first 2 days, because it has got humidity, lower height, so the chances of rain there. So always keep your rain gears with you. So keep it handy in your backpack, or if you have a small bag, just tie it at the back of the seat with a bungee cord, something like that. Keep your essentials in that, or if you have a tank bag, small backpack, whatever you feel like. But keep your rain gears with you, because you cannot predict the weather in the Himalayas. You start your day, it's all sunny, you look at the Google update or any other weather app, that okay, it's gonna be sunny, and then in next half an hour you see the clouds are there and starts raining. So you cannot predict the weather in the Himalayas. So the best practice is keep your rain gears with you. And now talking about the temperature. So if the weather is clear, the day is sunny, it's gonna be hot, and the temperature may range from 24 degrees to 35 or 36 degrees as well. So the reason is that right now you are here at 200 meters. There you will be riding at mostly above 3000 meters. So you are 3000 meters closer to the sun. And if the sky is clear, it's gonna be hot. And if you have a bad weather, rain, clouds, or a kind of storm, anything like that, then it's gonna be cold. So there is a just simple prediction about the weather. If it's clear, it's hot. If you have the clouds, it's going to be cold. However, when you are hitting the high passes of the ride, then yes, it is going to be cold. So again, what you can do, that you can keep an inner layer of your thermals in your backpack, and every day when we do the briefing, he is gonna tell you about the high passes, that today we are doing a high pass. So just keep an inner layer in your backpack, and when you feel like, you can just put it on, or if you don't feel like, because if it is like extremely hot, the sky is all clear, you won't feel like putting it on. But you should keep it in your backpack or whatever, like just keep it handy. Just an inner layer, not all this stuff. Because you have a backup vehicle which carries all your stuff, so they are going to follow you, but there would be a delay, because you guys are riding bikes, they are on a four-wheeler, so there could be a delay of 20 or some minutes. or they stuck in some traffic and you guys just squeeze it. So that depends. So the best practice is always when you start your day, keep your rain gears and one layer of your thermals. Not in the initial days, but yes, especially when you are going to the high pass, then keep your inner layers. So this is about the weather. So I told you about the terrain, that it is going to be 70% or 60% paved, 30 to 40% off-road, and the paved one is with the potholes. And we have a lead rider, we have a marshal, we have a sweeper. Most of the guys or some of the guys must be concerned about stopping on the way, taking pictures, because that is what you are here for. So whenever someone stops, the sweeper stops. It is his duty to take care of you guys. So you don't need to feel bounded that okay, I just need to keep on riding, I'm not able to take the pictures. So whenever you feel like you get a nice view, you are looking around, just stop, take the pictures, but don't spend half an hour there. So you always have the sweeper there, and then we have a backup vehicle which is taking care of like all your logistics. Then we have you have like my car, so someone will take care of you, and the sweeper is always there. And guys, one more concern about the ride, because all of you have the different mindset towards the ride, about riding a bike and how you take the ride. So and everyone has the different skill sets as well. So you guys don't need to chase each other. Just ride at your own pace, because when you chase each other, when you try to stick together, or when you try to be in the group, more chances of having a crash. So the group should be well spread. There is a lead rider, then there is a marshal, and then there is a sweeper. You are just allowed to take pictures, feel free, stop, and just move on. And there is one ground rule, that nobody is overtaking the lead rider. Another ground rule is, if you feel lost, if you don't see anyone around, that you can't see the marshal, you can't see the sweeper, so guys, just stay there, don't take a left, don't take a right, just stay there, we'll find you out. So this is one of the major mantras of the ride: don't take a left, don't take a right. So we'll find you out. Now talking about and guys, always keep your passport handy with you, because there would be checkposts. We'll be riding across the Indo-China border, really close to the borders. So there would be checkposts, and we'll be also applying for the special permits over there. So always keep your passport handy with you, because there would be times when the officials there may ask for your passport. So, but just take care of your passport, otherwise you are staying back in India. So there would be 2 days when we apply for the special permits. So the third day of the ride, when we are entering in the Spiti Valley, so we will be riding close to the Indo-China border. So we are going to the administrative office. We get the photo session done and all the permits and everything, and then we'll move ahead. So however, all that stuff would be taken care of by the support staff. So you just need to provide your documentation, and they'll take care of everything. And then when we reach Leh, you need to provide your passports, the original ones, to us. We'll go to the administrative office, we'll get the documentation done, and next day we'll hand it over back to you guys. So that is one of the major things. And guys, there is one more adventure on the ride, which starts at the end of the day. Every day when you finish your rides, it's the end of the day, and that is that is about the accommodation. So when you are riding in the extreme remote Himalayas, they don't understand the meaning of the hospitality. For them, it's like you want a room, it's there. You want food, it's there. You have it, you sleep, you go. So they don't understand the meaning of the hospitality. And most of the properties are basic and small, maybe 10 rooms or 12 rooms, not bigger than that. So they don't know the meaning of twin sharing. For them, twin sharing is not like the urban cities in Delhi or anywhere you are coming from. For them, twin sharing is two people sharing one king size bed. So that is going to be the another adventure at the end of the ride every day. However, you can ask for a separate mattress, bedding, blankets, whatever you need, they'll provide it to you. So if you need a separate mattress, you can put it on the floor, if not comfortable with your partner. So this is going to be the another adventure. And guys, if you are here with a perception of going on a vacation, you will be disappointed. For sure, because this is hardcore adventure. This is not a vacation, and I am saying this by my experience throughout these 10 years, because people just saw a beautiful picture on the Facebook, okay, let's do this, and then you are expecting that yes, you are doing the Himalayas, but a swimming pool, but with a centrally heated room in the middle of the extreme remote Himalayas with a jacuzzi and all that. So this is not going to be the same. However, that is my job to make sure that whatever you get in the town, that is the best available in the town. So that is my job to make sure what you get is the best available in the town. So there is a saying in the Himalayas, the higher you go, the lower your expectations should be. So guys, I'm almost done with all these stuffs. There's one more important stuff about the networks. So there would be few days where we don't have the cell phone reception or the internet. So you just gonna be calm for that day because you do not have anyone to bother you. So there would be few days which Keshav is gonna let you know about the cell phone reception every day, whether you have it or not. So there would be few like 4 to 5 days, but not in a row. So almost every alternate day you have the networks. And guys, as I told you about the safety instructions, left is right, right is wrong, go slow, keep calm, especially at the edges, at the curves, at the turns, at the blind spots. And people over there just use to of their riding skills. If someone is coming from the another side, there's a blind spot you don't see, so you gotta keep left, because they just ride like a zigzag roller coaster. So they know what they are doing, but you are in a different situation. So always keep left, ride slow. And again, if you are here to explore the beauty, to see the things around you, you need to ride slow. And the second part of the safety concern is most of the Himalayas have the very basic medical facilities. Either those are the basic government hospitals or the army hospitals. In the worst case scenario, we need to ride back to the Delhi or Chandigarh to get the modern state of art facilities, hospitals and everything. So that's why I am emphasizing on this, that keep slow, ride slow, keep calm, just explore the things, see the things around, keep left and keep honking. So because you don't have the medical facilities where you can survive on that. So very basic first aid, or you can just get an X-ray done or something like that, but not more than that. Or the best possible way is to go to a army hospital, because some of the army hospitals there, because they are at a command center, so they have the facilities, but again not that much, because they have the airlift facility there, so they can fly in an hour and they can go to a bigger hospital, but we do not have an airlift facility. So that is one of the things. And about the damage of the bike, so the people who have taken the insurance of the bike, they just free from any liability. And if you have not taken the insurance, what you break, you pay for that. You break a clutch lever, you pay for a clutch lever. You throw the whole bike down the hill, you pay for the whole bike. Because this has happened in the past. There was a guy from USA, Eric Fawcett. He dropped the bike down the hill, jumped off, and the bike went down the hill. It was a complete loss, so he paid for the whole bike. And
Harry Potter with that best skills, right?
So guys, last but not the least and the most important part of the ride, beers every day at the end of the ride. So if you need beers every day, or wine or whiskey, make a pool of money every day, give it to the lead rider or the support staff. They're gonna grab it on the way, so that when you reach there, you have the beers. Because when you are already done with the ride, we'll be involved in like different operations of the ride behind the scene, so we don't get time to facilitate the beers. So every morning when you start your ride, you can make a pool of money in the group and just give it to the lead rider or the support staff, anyone, and they'll grab it on the way. So one beer costs around 300 rupees for a bottle or for a can, but it may vary at some places. Some places it could be 10-20 rupees lower or 10-20 rupees higher, but the average is 300 rupees for a beer of bottle or can. So every morning, if you need 2, if you need 3, or you are, or maybe you need a full case, so you just make a pool of money as per that and give it to the support staff. So guys, that is it from my side, and now I would request you all one by one to introduce yourself, so that at least I am familiar with all the names, because right now it's like kind of I'm confused. So it'll be.
You put this
Alors ça,
in and you
c'est délicieux. C'est des panipuri. C'est des petites boules croustillantes avec des épices dedans. Il y a soit du jus de watermelon, soit un liquide épicé. Donc on verse le liquide dans la petite boule. Je vais essayer de pas en mettre partout. Et voilà, j'en ai mis partout. On va le déplacer un peu. Et ensuite, on mange la petite boule. Délicieux.